Welcome to 30 minutes of VOA Learning English, the voice of America's information service for people learning English. Join us now for the Economics Report and American Mosaic, coming up after As It Is.
From VOA Learning English, this is As It Is. I'm Katie Weaver. On the show today, we remember two important Americans, both activists in the cause of civil rights.
We shall overcome.
Franklin McCain launched a successful protest in Greensboro, North Carolina on February 1st, 1960. It made popular demonstrations called sit-ins, and it was instrumental in the effort to pass a civil rights law. Pete Seeger was America's most famous folk musician, but he also was active in civil rights, anti-war, and other social political issues. Franklin McCain and Pete Seeger, their lives and their work. Our subject today on As It Is.
First love's embrace like a gentle breeze, whisper softly through the trees.
Franklin McCain made civil rights history with his friends Joseph McNeil, David Richmond, and Jabril Kazan, who was known then as Ezell Blair Jr. The four men are remembered now as the Greensboro Four. But in 1960, they were students at the North Carolina Agriculture and Technical College. On February 1st, 1960, the four young men met in front of the school library. They prayed together. Then they walked into town. The night before, they had decided to take action to end racial separation. At Franklin McCain's suggestion, the students planned to order a meal at the Whites Only restaurant at the local F.W. Woolworth store. Most eateries in the southern United States barred African Americans from eating with whites. The students knew what they planned was dangerous. They grew up in a time of violent opposition to the 1954 Supreme Court decision to end racial separation in public schools. The friends promised each other that they would sit at the Woolworth lunch counter even if they were attacked. When they arrived at the store, they bought school supplies. Then they walked to the eating area and sat down together. Restaurant workers ordered Franklin McCain and his friends to leave. People in other parts of the store stopped to watch. The police came, but did not arrest the students that day. The young men sat at the lunch counter until the store closed. The next day, they returned. The number of student protesters grew each day. They came from both black and white schools. Soon, the protesters were holding sit-ins at other restaurants in Greensboro. The Greensboro protests launched a sit-in movement that spread across the southern United States. Within 10 days, students in 13 states had organized lunch counter sit-ins in 55 cities. In the summer of 1960, Woolworth agreed to end separate eating areas in its Greensboro store. Today, visitors to Greensboro will find a road named for the day the sit-ins began. February 1 Street is in the center of town. It leads to Elm Street, where the old Woolworth building is now home to the International Civil Rights Center and Museum. Franklin McCain was 19 years old when he launched the sit-in that helped change the South. In the years that followed, reporters and researchers often asked McCain if he had been afraid that day. He always answered that he had grown tired of being afraid. He felt angry. He said when he finally sat at the lunch counter, he felt very calm and powerful. The protests and other events led to the Civil Rights Act in 1964 and the Voting Rights Act in 1965. Seeger, the famous banjo-playing folk singer and songwriter, died Monday at the age of 94. Pete Seeger made American folk music popular. He also fought for social change. VOA's Catherine Cole remembers his career.
For many, Pete Seeger will be remembered as America's most famous folk singer. He grew up believing that song has the power to change the world. As a young man in 1938, Pete Seeger left Harvard College in Massachusetts. In the early 1940s, Seeger formed the Almanac Singers. The singing group was known for recording songs about labor rights and against war. Pete Seeger served in the Army during World War II. After the war, he formed the Weavers. The group soon became one of America's favorite singing groups. One of the most famous recordings by the Weavers is the Hebrew language song Zenya, Zenya, Zenya. Just 5 years ago, at 89, Pete Seeger re-recorded the song. The words are sung in Hebrew as well as English and Arabic, and as Pete Seeger describes it, all the parts harmonize well. Pete Seeger also played an important part in the civil rights movement. He not only attended protests, but he helped provide the movement with its anthem, "We Shall Overcome." The song was created from an old spiritual called "I'll Overcome Someday." The words were changed over time, and Seeger and other folk singers sang it at protests. Singing "We Shall Overcome" became a tradition at civil rights gatherings in the 1960s. In 1994, then-President Bill Clinton awarded Pete Seeger with the Presidential Medal of the Arts, the nation's highest honor for artists. 2 years later, Pete Seeger was admitted to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and in 2009, he performed at the Lincoln Memorial in a concert to celebrate the presidency of Barack Obama. When he died, Pete Seeger had a list of honors longer than the neck on his beloved banjo. Not bad for a man who said he never meant to make music his career.
I did not want to be a professional musician. I liked to sing, but I thought music business was full of hypocrisy. I did go sing in the schools, though, in summer camps. And then some of the kids grew up and went to college, and during the frightened 50s, when the blacklist was in the popular music business, I just went from college to college to college to college to college to college to college.
I'm Catherine Cole.
first love's embrace like a gentle breeze whispers softly through the trees.
And that's As It Is for today. I'm Katie Weaver. Thanks for joining us.
First love's embrace like a gentle breeze whispers softly through the trees. Every moment with you feels so right.
The Economics Report is next, followed by American Mosaic. You can read and listen to our programs and download MP3s at learningenglish.voanews.com. You can learn with us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at VOA Learning English.
Softly through the trees. Every moment with you.
This is the VOA Learning English Economics Report. Chinese officials say the country's economy grew last year at about the same rate as in 2012. The 7.7% growth rate was the slowest growth China has reported since 1999. Yet officials say the growth rate was still higher than their prediction of 7.5%. Ma Jiantang is director of China's National Bureau of Statistics. He says it is no easy job to keep growth at over 7% and inflation low at the same time. That is made more difficult by the size and nature of China's economy, the world's second largest. Mr. Ma says this combination of high growth and limited inflation is unusual in the world. China's economy had 10% growth rates in the years before the world financial crisis of 2008. That economic expansion resulted from big trade surpluses and foreign investment. Now, says Ma Jiantang, China is seeking to move away from that growth model. The country is working to balance exports with demand at home. Recently released information shows that household spending in China remains lower than in most economies. Chinese government estimates put household spending at about 36% of all goods and services produced within the country. That is down from 49% in 1978. By comparison, Thailand's household spending represents 56% of its economy. Some experts dispute the belief that China's personal consumption is so low. They say businesses often buy goods for their employees to avoid taxes. This means companies are increasing demand for household goods by buying them directly. Chinese officials say they want to reduce the economic influence of state-controlled businesses and to let market forces shape the economy. However, economists expect China's growth to slow in the coming years. How quickly that happens depends on several issues. The recovery of the United States and European economies means rising demand for Chinese exports. One issue that might slow growth is the expanding load of local government debt. That debt is estimated at about $3 trillion, or about 1/3 of the size of the economy. China has long tied its estimate of local officials on their ability to grow the economy. Reforms are possible, but some could slow economic growth. The government is moving away from growth to areas such as environmental protection and the ability of local officials to contain debt. Experts say that could also weaken investment and slow growth. And that's the Economics Report.
Welcome to American Mosaic, from VOA Learning English. I'm June Sims. On the show today, we hear music from the performers that will play at the 2014 National Football League Championship game. We also learn about a place where art, science, and history all meet. But first, a report on an old and newly popular birthing practice. Most births in the United States take place in hospitals. Women giving birth are under the care of doctors, armed with modern drugs and equipment. About 1 in 3 babies arrive through a surgical operation called a cesarean section. However, a growing number of parents-to-be are choosing a different way. Steve Ember reports.
Emily Jacobs and her husband, Rowan Finnegan, are preparing to welcome their second child. The baby will be born at their home, just like their first child, 22-month-old Elias. The same nurse midwife will help with this birth, too. If all goes well, it will be a peaceful birth without medicine, high-tech machinery, or surgery.
And then after giving birth, straight into my own shower, into my own bed with our new family in our home, and there's just nothing like that.
Emily Jacobs attended medical school, so she has attended hospital births. She thinks doctors consider hospital rules and possible legal risks in administering birth care more than the needs of the women they serve.
It's not an illness to be pregnant. It's a beautiful experience, and if you feel supported and you have the right kind of support, to labor and give birth in your own home is such a gift.
Home births have risen sharply in recent years. There are now about 30,000 such deliveries across the country each year. However, that number still represents less than 1% of all U.S. births. A 2008 documentary, The Business of Being Born, helped increase the popularity of home births. The documentary included film of untroubled births in homes, including some in warm water. Other supporters of home birth have spread the idea with video of their water births, with midwives assisting. Critics disagree about the safety of home births. One study found that babies born at home are 10 times likelier to be born dead. The study found that they are also 4 times more likely to have serious neurological problems. The findings were reported in the American Journal of Obstetrics and Gynecology. Study co-author Dr. Jack Chervenak is with the New York Presbyterian Weill Cornell Medical Center.
We here on our labor and delivery unit fight for seconds. When an unexpected fetal distress occurs, we do drills so that we plan an emergency cesarean and fight for seconds. If someone is as much as 1 block away from this hospital, it's too far.
But others say the study had problems. Tina Johnson is with the American College of Nurse Midwives.
We used a lot of flawed data and drew a lot of conclusions that are inconsistent with all of the other research that's out there currently, including another recent AJOG article that came out more recently citing that home births, planned home births with certified nurse midwives outcomes are just as safe as midwifery deliveries in the hospital.
Writer Jennifer Block agrees. She says women are choosing home birth for the baby's health as well as their own.
Because if the mother has a spontaneous vaginal birth, that's absolutely the best case scenario for a baby. We know babies benefit from vaginal birth. Their lungs, their respiratory health, their gut health, they are colonized with good bacteria.
And Ms. Block notes that the experience is very different in Western Europe and some other countries. In those areas, midwives care for healthy pregnant women and send them to doctors only if there are problems or known risks.
First love's embrace like a gentle breeze, whisper softly through the trees.
A popular exhibit at the National Museum of Natural History in Washington explores human evolution. The exhibit includes lifelike representations of ancient primates or hominids, the early versions of us. Paleo artist John Gurchie creates a world that modern humans can relate to.
First love's embrace like a gentle breeze.
The Hall of Human Origins is crowded with visitors. They study 5 life-size bronze models. The models show what scientists believe ancient everyday life looked like, starting millions of years ago. In one representation, a Homo erectus struggles to carry a newly killed antelope. Another model shows a Homo floresiensis surprised by a deadly animal. This look at Homo floresiensis is set about 18,000 years ago. John Gurchie also created the models of hominid heads found in the exhibit. The artist is an expert in prehistoric subjects and ape and human body structure.
Really, to succeed in doing one of these reconstructions, it has to be something you can relate to as a living being that you almost expect to see breathe. And you also have to base it on the best science available, or else you really have just a fantasy.
Mr. Gurchie brings faces from the past to life. He starts with the plaster form of a skull. He adds layers of clay and sculpts a face. He covers the work in silicone and adds details and color to the face. He also attaches hair, one single piece at a time. He says what makes the pieces seem so real, though, are the eyes.
I'm trying to build up an impression that there's someone home. When you look one of these things in the eyes, you feel that there's someone there. There's some presence. Because it really feels like it's more than just clay and plaster. Hopefully people will be a little bit creeped out by the final result because they're expecting to see an inanimate object, but what they're seeing is something that has a little bit of a soul.
The bronze sculptures capture the moments of the major changes in human development. Visitors follow their ancestors' footsteps as they move from model to model. They get to see a moment in which early hominids first walked on 2 feet. Visitors observe as brains get larger, fire is discovered, and early humans look for food and react to danger.
Human evolution, as revealed by the fossil record, is not just a matter of everything we think of as human sort of evolving in tandem together. It's much more of a mosaic affair where different things are added at different times. So each species that's a candidate for human ancestry has its own piece of the puzzle, the human puzzle, that it added to the mix.
Another representation shows a private family moment in Neanderthal life. John Gurchie has created a young child watching his mother as she works with an animal skin. The boy's head is turned a little to the side and up, as if he is questioning something.
He's got a piece of skin also, and he's wondering, about what she's doing and whether he should do the same thing. He's got kind of a quizzical tilt of his head, and she is sort of responding to him with a lot of joy, and hopefully you can see some encouragement there in her expression.
These are not emotions that Stacy Weinberg would usually link to humans that lived 70,000 years ago. Ms. Weinberg is visiting the exhibit with her 2 children.
We tend to think that we've evolved more and are, I guess, more intelligent than people that long ago, but it's cute because it's a very similar position to one that we might be in today.
That is the connection John Gurche seeks in his work with our human relatives long past.
Every moment with you feels so right. In the symphony of love we take flight.
The National Football League holds its yearly championship on Sunday. Last week, we talked about the teams that will play in this 48th Super Bowl. This week, Christopher Cruz reports on the entertainment planned for the game and plays some of the music that might be performed.
With you feels so right. In the symphony of love we take flight. We take flight. Every touching night.
That is Renee Fleming, one of the greatest opera singers alive today. On Sunday, Miss Fleming will experience a career first. She will become the first opera singer to perform the national anthem at the Super Bowl. The U.S. national anthem is called the Star-Spangled Banner. It is a famously difficult song to perform. But we are pretty sure that Renee Fleming will sing it with ease.
The trees. Every moment with you feels so right. In the symphony of love we take flight. We take flight.
After the first half of the game ends, there is a 30-minute break in play. A big stage is set up, and famous artists put on a show. Last year, Super Bowl 47, Beyoncé and Destiny's Child performed. Other past halftime entertainers include Madonna, The Who, Bruce Springsteen, and Britney Spears. This year, Bruno Mars is a Super Bowl performer. Good timing for the event's producers.
In a world of wonder I found you, a glimpse of magic so brand